Okay.
No. Yes.
All right. So, hello. Welcome to Composer Talk week of whatever this is. So,
It's the
explain
10th.
time. Yeah, it's October 10th. So,
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, I was approached by a man that wanted to buy the house that we were renting. I said no, even though he offered, oh, well, I'll give you like 3 grand and pay for your move and all that, and I've got a house that you can live in for free for the remainder of your lease. I'm like, no, that's just not feasible. Like, we like this house, we're busy, da da da. Several days pass, some minor harassment happens, and before the minor harassment happens, I get a text from our current landlord, or our past landlords at the time, saying, hey, you should really check out the house. I think it's a good deal for you. And honestly, our old landlords, they are quite nice, and they do really want what's best for people, and they're generally good people. So I'm like, well, I mean, if they're saying it'd be a good deal for us, I'll at least go check out the house. Were never shown the house. I think they just trusted the guy that it was a good house because it was basically a hole. It was a crap hole. No one would live there. The main causeway of the house was a screened-in porch. I kid you not. Not to mention this one would be homeless. And then more time passes, some more minor harassment from the prospective buyer. We ended up looking at this house that we are currently in, signing the paperwork and all that, and then over the course of 8 days, packed everything we had, moved everything we had, and got 95% set up in the house that we're currently in. So that's what happened last week instead of us composer talking.
TLDR, we moved really fast, didn't have time to do that. So,
Yeah.
we're
but
back.
new office. This
Yes.
is it's like really huge. I'll just like
And because of the way we're set up, you can't even fill the boxes.
yeah,
Well, now you can.
and actually a lot of those are empty. So
Yeah.
like I've been working on this slowly. Like I've got a practice corner in here. These are soundproof blackout curtains. They are very wonderful, and I am really looking forward to this space. The house in general is actually better than the old house we were in, but still the pain in the butt of moving. And I mean, like this one and was in classes, and my wife was in classes and working.
Yeah.
So even though I was on dissertation hours, a lot of it did fall on I needed to come here and do setup, wait for people, things like that. So I didn't even have time to, because we had initially talked about, well, worst comes to worst, Zach can just do like a 20-minute quick news segment. That couldn't even happen because it was miserable.
We had movers in here that day.
We had movers in here that day, but I accelerated that because we didn't want to live in a hole for a week.
But yeah, so new space, get used to the new background.
It might change because again, there's a 50% chance on getting a green screen gaming. If so, we would probably use it for. But yeah, well, because like for whenever you do game footage and all that, it's better to like be able to see as much of it as possible. So instead of like if you're looking at the camera right now, like my head blocking out, all the background goes away.
Yes.
So it's just you get a lot more stuff in the background. Even though honestly, like my gaming window, like you're looking at the screen outline.
Right.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's a side note, but yeah, we've got a lot of news, some spillover from last week, some brand new stuff. Let's dive in.
Yes.
First news item was that.
Yeah. New thing. So next up, this is from last week, but composer Matthew Alcoin recently Arthur Fellowship. We've talked about these on here before because they happened last week. But for those of you who don't know...
Well, we also talked a little bit about the controversy earlier this year. Yeah.
The controversy?
Well, just how a couple of the composers felt like it was rigged.
No, that we never...
We didn't talk about that on here?
No,
Who did I talk about that with?
I'm not sure if we're talking about the same thing.
Oh. No, I know. I must have talked about it with Kyle. My bad.
Maybe.
Continue.
Anyway, with that sort of Damocles hanging over this news item, Matthew Alcoy just wanted MacArthur Fellowship. The MacArthur Foundation is basically this organization that awards money and fellowships and these kind of things to people are creatives, whether that is artistically or scientifically. They're rewarding creative activity, and Matthew Alcoin's got a pretty good deal. This is a $625,000 fellowship. So good for him. I've been familiar with some of his music. He definitely has a voice and ideas. So yes, that's up. And next up, we have some Steinberg / Dorico news.
Actually, it's mostly just Steinberg. The Dorico part's just a side note. So, the Steinberg Arconica sound set. You heard me kind of toying around with these earlier in the week. These are like, not even show it to Dr. Lamb. And, you know, he's not well versed in this, but he can recognize a good sound. The Steinberg Iconica sound set, it was released over the summer, but recently they did a promotion for it. And they also casually announced about a month ago, the Dorico team is working on including this. And what's important about it is, it's not just a sound set. It's an incredible sound set. Most people are familiar with the Vienna Symphonic Library. That is roughly $6,000 if you get the whole package. I think a little more if you add percussion. I'm eating. Anyways, so this one's only about $800, and it is, in my opinion, of equal quality in nearly all facets. Plus, it has a very unique thing where you can actually adjust where the microphone is in relation to the. That is a really unique thing, because obviously for some things, oh, well, you want to have it leaning in a little closer to the oboe because you're trying to get the sound of their key, whatever, and you can actually get that with the sound set. So it's really cool, really unique, and this is something that I think is going to help a lot of people. And once the Dorico team works on the out-of-box interaction with it, you'll be able to just buy Iconica sound sets, and it'll just work with Dorico, and the performance maps will be there. And since Steinberg is the lead developer on the VST3 system and VST2 for it, VST3 is actually what a lot of other companies use, just Avid Sibelius, Finale, all those. So in theory, once the performance map is done for Dorico, the groundwork is there for it not only to obviously be standard in Dorico, but also in the other software as well. So that is a really major thing. And with how competitively this sound set is priced, that is incredible. Plus, there's a discounted version for like $200 that has kind of quote-unquote basic ensembles. So like, oh, a basic string orchestra, basic high school wind band, things like that. So this is a nice palette going forward. And I'm going to be following this very closely. And I've actually downloaded the sound set. Oh my goodness, I can't get it to do all the little idiosyncrasies in Dorico yet because I haven't had time to make a plan for it. But it is really good. Really, really, really good. This is actually enough that I'm probably going to and I've never outright bought a sound set before, so that's pretty good. Yeah. And then the next bit, kind of related, but kind of not. Note Performer 3. You're probably familiar with Note Performer.
I know what it is.
Yeah. Note Performer 3 now works out of the box with Dorico and the latest Sibelius 8 build. Both of these developments happened last week around the same time. I think it's because, Note Performer 3 has been out for a few weeks now, so the companies have had the software for probably a month or two to prepare for it. So, yeah, they both have this. Finale, it currently works in an alpha build. I suspect it'll work in Finale probably within the next month.
Yeah.
It's just because right now Finale is working towards their next big version, so they're probably not as concerned with this. But that's good because that's a little $200 sound set that it's got everything you really need as a student. Like for most students, Note Performer is if you don't want to do something like Composer Cloud, which I still think is the better option. But if you're in a country that you can't get Composer Cloud, or if you have a bad internet connection, you're not sure if you'll be able to always have reliable connectivity, Note Performer is an excellent way. Yeah, that now works out of the box with some of the leading software, and the last one, Finale, is up and coming.
And I just thought of another tech happened in the last couple weeks. If you are a Mac user,
yeah,
be careful. The latest it has come out. The latest update for Mac OS, the Mojave update, has Mojave, whatever it's called. Yeah. Is having issues with both Pro Tools from Avid and Finale. So if you use a Mac OS and you use either of those programs, probably don't upgrade to Mojave.
But honestly, that's not even news. Like, it's always known that, okay, if you're a musician, don't upgrade immediately. Why? Because the software is really slow to update, especially from Avid.
And I haven't heard of any issues with Alias or Dorico.
There is a minor issue with Dorico. Have to kind of tweak base settings. So I don't really recommend it for Dorico either, but it's at least doable.
Yeah.
But Finale and Pro Tools, it does outright break. I'm not sure what it does for Mac. That's the other big piece of software that I use.
I don't know.
But also with update stuff, this doesn't normally fall into composer talk, but this is really important. There is currently a Windows build 1809. Do not upgrade to it if you are a Windows user. Do not upgrade. Turn off auto update. You should never have auto update on. There is a chance, not 100%, but there is a chance, and it's a reasonable chance, it's like 25% chance, that will delete all of your documents. And they will be unrecoverable. They're just gone. That's technically technological news. That isn't musical, but it can really affect your music.
But if you're a composer and you have your document saved and does all your pieces, then go goodbye.
Yeah.
Goodbye
now,
pieces.
someone like me, and I have like 8 backups of everything. As long as it's not something I composed last night, I've probably got several backups of it. But in general, don't do that. They're fixing it. They think the root cause is something with OneDrive. But which is funny because OneDrive itself is a thing that backs up files. But if your files are in OneDrive, no, but here's the goofed up part.
Right.
Even though the problem is caused by OneDrive, if your stuff is in OneDrive, you're safe.
Right.
But if it's in the regular documents folder outside of OneDrive, which who does that really? You should always have backups, Jacob.
I do back things up. I have a flash drive that I keep.
You back it up by the second?
Not by the second.
Then you should have it in OneDrive. Anyways, but so yeah, just do not upgrade yet. Wait at least a couple weeks for them to send out the new builds. Not many people downloaded this and had it happen to them yet, but yeah, turn off auto update for Windows. Turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. If it's an important enough update, it'll yell at you. Anyways, continuing. You want to take this next one?
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna make you say it.
I don't even know why we're talking about this. Composing in the Wilderness extended their deadline again.
It's just funny. It's now been extended for 6 weeks.
Big news. Big news. Composition program extends deadline.
Well, here's the thing, though. The last time that this happened for a relatively workshop that I literally applied that day and got in that day.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, if you want something on your CV that looks good, apply to composing in the Wilderness. Good chance you'll get accepted.
Yeah, as if they're looking for people,
they're looking for bodies.
I'm not applying because it's a lot of money.
It's like $2,000. Or sorry, well, it's like $1,200 if you do the baseline. It's like $2,000 if you do the kayaking up.
Well, yeah, but then you gotta pay to fly to Alaska and
if you know how to fly like I do, it's not too bad. Also, I could probably get to Alaska and back for under $500 if I got tickets at the right time.
Yeah, so if you were wanting to apply to composing and you didn't, and you're like, oh no, the deadline expired.
Well, and the other reason I wanted to bring this up is I wanted to have a very small discussion about it, but I mean, is it a problem with the program? I mean, it's just interesting to me seeing it push back further and further and further. Because at this point, they're looking for warm bodies. I don't think they're really screening that much for what you've done as a composer.
As I have said in the past, from my perspective, as somebody who likes to compose and likes the outdoors, if I'm gonna do this, I'm probably just gonna get a couple buddies and go and hike, and I'm probably not gonna pay to go and do this program. Now, that's my perspective.
But you also have to pay for like your tents and all that stuff. Right. That's just all included here. And that
And that cold weather stuff is really expensive. Like, I'm not an outdoorsman myself, but I'd say, like, of that $1,200 for the baseline stuff, I'd say half of that is the gear and that's probably like market rate or a little lower. But, and then the other $600 is probably your food for. So, I mean, honestly, it's not a bad deal.
At the same time, a lot of people who are might be interested in this might already have some of that gear. If this is something they already do, I mean, I don't, because I've been out of there. You do. I've been kind of out of the outdoor world for a while because it takes time. But
Slacker.
Yeah. It's an interesting program, and I mean I don't know what's happened in it in past years, or what the people who have done it think about the program.
Actually, mysteriously enough, I'm pretty good at researching stuff. I'm excellent at finding information. I can't find many details about what people actually thought about Posing in the Wilderness. The only person I've gotten to say more than 2 words is Dr. McSpirit. And he has told me that just, and I quote, and this is the thing that everyone says about it: it was a really great experience. It's a nice opportunity to get in tune with nature and write music. They all say that exact same phrase. I almost wonder if there's an NDA that you sign. Like, because it really reminds me of whenever people sign NDAs with companies and they're told this is your response, because everyone has the same response. You look at reviews online, it's the same 2 sentences.
If you are a composer looking to apply to a summer program and they ask you to sign an NDA, run. I have some doubts that they're asking you to sign an NDA.
Why do you?
Because I feel like if they ask people to sign an NDA, somebody would tell them to shove off and then go tell everybody else they're making you sign an NDA.
But I think so. But in the computer world, earlier this year, NVIDIA, one of the big graphics card companies, they had a huge NDA scandal where basically they're just like, oh yeah, well, this is the typical user agreement, just, sign it, make sure that our asses are covered type thing. And everyone signed it. That was part of this new program of theirs.
Yeah.
But what they were then informed is, thank you for signing this. As part of signing this, you have agreed to this NDA where you cannot discuss any of XYZ, ABC, where they literally couldn't say anything even slightly negative about NVIDIA or anything positive about any other company. Like, and so I'm not saying that's something that's sinister, but I'm just saying it reminds me of that, because everyone says the same sentence or 2 with little to no variation.
You just said you only got like 1 person from like.
No, I'm comparing it to the online reviews, things like that.
Right.
Because I mean, I found lots of things online of people say the same 1 or 2 sentences on like,
well,
oh yeah, this is a wonderful experience.
I personally think that the more likely that's what it is. There isn't much more to it.
No, my actual theory is, my honest theory on this is that I think it's probably just a very meh experience. I think it's probably possibly just a bland experience, not a bad one, but I think it's just an okay experience. As a result, if it's just okay and you want to maintain relations with them, you're gonna say it was good. Because, I mean, there's nothing actively bad about it, so you can't bash it. But there's also nothing great, because if there's something singularly great about it, people would be going on and on about it. So, I don't know. That's my personal take. That's all I wanted to say about it. So, yeah. 4-minute rant over.
Anyway, on.
I'll let you take the next one. News.
Boston New Music Festival. Boston is beginning.
Really? The Boston New Music Festival is in Boston.
Yes, in Boston, Massachusetts. It's beginning this weekend and will run from October 13th to November 3rd. We heard about this through SCI. They've been sending out emails, and ASCAP is doing emails about it. So I wasn't actually going to put it on here this week. Talk about it next week.
Well, because it's starting this weekend.
It is starting this weekend. So if you live in Boston, then this is something to look out for. The keynote speech. Who's doing the keynote?
Again, due to this week.
Yeah, we're sorry.
Keep talking. I'll find it.
It will be on October 7th, and we will tell you that keynote in just a minute after we talk about what's happening here at OU next week. So this is just basically a quick plug for our student composition concerts coming tomorrow. We have 2 concerts. They're at 8 p.m. on October 17th, by Zach and I, and by several other of our colleagues. There's acoustic music, there's electronic music, all kinds of things. Tuesday night's concert.
For some reason, it's not coming.
That's fine. Tuesday night's concert, October 16th, is when Zach and I will both have our pieces performed. I'm doing a piece for solo piano that I'm really excited about. Zach's doing a piece for seven speakers called Number Theory. That's a really fun piece. We just rehearsed it last night at our New Century Improv Ensemble rehearsal. It's really great.
Do you know my justification behind the piece, by the way? I haven't typed this out for Nikki yet. No.
Why did there have to be a justification?
No. There's actually a deep justification.
For what?
Number theory.
The piece itself?
So, it specifies 7 humans.
Yes.
There's lots of, theories of numbers with any set of numbers. And 7 is, quote, the sacred number. And so, basically, it's just kind of an allusion to... Basically, I'm just trying to allude to all of the kind of... Think like Da Vinci Code type stuff where people are saying they're trying to find all of this deep meaning, all this deep mathematical meaning to, oh, look, these 2 thes are 8 syllables apart, therefore it means something special. Yeah. And basically, I've just had these people 1 through 7 iterating these numbers, and basically by the end, it just becomes noise. And that's kind of the point of the piece, is it starts out somewhat logical, but the more you add to it,
theories kick in,
and then it just gets it spirals more and more out of control.
That's an interesting idea, and I think it's definitely logical with. But yeah,
I'm excited for the piece. I think it's going to be a fun performance.
We're both going on Tuesday, so of course we hope you tune in to the live stream, which will be Zach's personal channel, on Tuesday night. But also check out Wednesday. That'll be the night where we have all our electronics. Some of our other colleagues, our good friends, Ben, Krumidi, and Nick Anderson.
Is he really a good friend?
I don't know. I guess he'll barely inch in there, you know. Yeah. And several.
Man, it's even intruding on composer talk.
And several other of our colleagues also. So yeah, check those concerts out. The Tuesday concert will be about an hour. The Wednesday one will be about an hour and a half, starting at 8.
Stupid win. Everyone's like, I need Wednesday.
Yeah, everybody wanted to go on. I wanted to go on Wednesday, but I moved mine.
Thank God.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the...
Poor Jennifer.
Anyway, so yeah, check that out. So, shameless plug over, and now we are on to the new music that's out this week and last week, and there's quite a bit of it. So, I'm just gonna run through this stuff really quick. Composer Anne Guzzo and librettist...
I was just symbolizing you going
and
through
librettist Jeffrey Lockwood have just written and premiered a piece called Locust, the Opera. It's about locusts. Seriously. This opera is like a historically and environmentally work chronicling the extinction of the Rocky Mountain locust, which used to terrorize the United States back in the day. And it was premiered a couple weeks ago on September 8th at the National Museum of Wildlife Art in Jackson, Wyoming. Both the composer and librettist are professors at the University of Wyoming. And
wasn't Wyoming where a town was literally taken over by those things?
I think, yeah, I think so.
It was one of those rocky states.
I don't know as much about the history. I should watch the opera. So I
That's a funny tidbit for you guys. There's literally, if you go back through historical records, there's a town that they literally just had to evacuate because the locusts were just everywhere.
Wyoming is also the state where there was that news item a while ago about like bears. Like this school having to take precautions again. No, it was because Betsy DeVoe was talking about this school in Wyoming where there were bears, and she was like, "Well, I bet they have guns there because of the bears." And then
it's like, first of all, that's way different.
and then the people in the school were like, "No, we have a big fence." we have a big fence.
No,
to
and
keep
that's
the
the other thing.
bears
It's
out.
like they probably have a big fence. And number two, if there's imminent danger of bears, you should have guns on campus.
We're not gonna get into the gun rights debate here, but
No,
but Betsy DeVoe was.
I think that's a universal thing, though. Just bears.
She
we
was
should have
probably
guns.
smoking weed that day. The bears.
No, you're giving her too much. No, you're giving her too much credit. You're making it seem like she knows what she's doing normally. Anyway,
Betsy DeVoe is in it. Sorry, that's our political thing for the day.
No, I feel like that's the wrong term. I prefer to use the term because people like to point out, oh, well, she was, near the top of her class. All that. I like to say she's the most ill-informed person.
Not an idiot. Not suited for her position.
For ill-informed.
Ill-informed.
I feel
yes.
she could be suited for the position if she actually, I don't know, used Google.
Well, I mean, in theory, anyone could be suited for any position if they did the work to give themselves the knowledge to.
Exactly. Hence why I like to say ill-informed.
Anyway,
moving on.
Past the political stuff for now. Another recent opera premiere is by David Lang with a libretto by poets Anne Carson and Claudio Rankine, and a design which is relevant in this. It's not just your normal stage design. Design by the architecture firm Diller Scofidio and Renfro. That's the name of the architecture. It's called the Mile Long Opera, a biography of 7 o'clock, and it literally is the mile long opera. How this opera works is that the audience
You're on a conveyor that goes down. Watching
it's not a conveyor. You're actually just walking. It's like a
walk.
promenade,
Okay.
and it's on New York's High Line, which I guess is this long walkway that goes through Brooklyn, and so basically the musicians are situated all along this walkway, and the audience just walks along and listens, and they can just walk and listen as they pass. They can pause and listen more intently to particular groups of musicians. It's a really interesting idea. I mean, it's David Lang.
Honestly,
he does stuff like this all the time.
Yeah,
it's
but
awesome.
you know what kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of those kind of War of the Bands type situation, where like you can just like go and listen to whichever band you want in a setup of like three or four.
We had something like that in Norman. Just it's Porch Fest.
Yeah, something like that, where it's just kind of like it's kind of a competition of sorts between the different groups to see like where they go. Except in this case, it's more of a they're all kind of the same quality, so to speak, and you just kind of move on as you want. And let's say this is something I like about it is let's say that there's like 4 story threads. One follows the husband, one follows the wife, one follows the butler, one follows the daughter. If you find yourself completely disinterested in the daughter, you could in theory skip the parts that involve her and then focus on the mom, dad, and butler, because maybe that's the story that you'd rather focus on.
Well, and the idea, it's kind of a bit of a collage kind of piece, because it's supposed to give you like basically an idea of what New York is like in the. So
this gives me a really cool idea for a couple new pieces.
So it's almost like half opera, half installation ish kind of thing.
I think if I were to classify this, if I were asked by a musicologist to classify this in 20 years, I would probably call it an installation piece, an operatic installation piece, not an opera, because an opera, just based on not necessarily the definition, but based on tradition, is a staged event, and something like this is more of an installation, in my opinion.
Well,
but
it's tomato.
Well, I mean, people are going to have this debate in 20 years.
But they will. It doesn't really matter, but I do think it is interesting just from a genre perspective, just how the composer and are combining the and it's legitimately interesting. So
NewRepublic.com for
there's a big article over at Republic.
So next is the Izuri Quartet with blueprinting. Works for string quartet, like how I took the one that string quartet. Works for string quartet by Lambert Breacher, Yevgeny Sharla, Caroline Shaw, Gabriella Smith, and Paul Winko.
think it's Wanko.
Wanko? Okay.
I like listening to you try to pronounce all these names now.
To be fair, I don't even have an
think
idea how to do that.
I'm not sure where.
I'm good at the pronunciation game, but
I'm pretty sure it's Yevgeny, and the last name is pretty Arlot.
There's no way it's Yevgeny. I know there has to be a catch to it.
But yeah, this comes to us from New Amsterdam Records. So yeah, I was able to listen to one of these pieces, Gabriella Smith's Carrot Revolution, a string quartet, which has a video up on YouTube. Watch them. It's a very good piece. So this would be an
Dinosaur Scar.
Yes. Next up is a new album by Pulitzer Prize winning Young.
I want to own it just so I can say I own the Dinosaur Scar.
Dinosaur Scar.
Titles are everything, folks.
This comes from New Focus Recordings and was produced by Do Young. Collaboration from the Internet Contemporary Ensemble. From the works on here. Yeah. I haven't had time to listen to all the albums this week. I've listened to bits and pieces because moving. But this is also interesting. Do Young is always an interesting. Won the Pulitzer Prize a couple of years, which is one of the weirdest pieces here. And never a dull moment. So check this out. There. Next up, composer Christopher Trapani has released an album called Waterlines, also from New. This is features several ensembles: Jack Quartet, Leia Ensemble. Duncan, are you laughing at Longleaf?
No, I'm laughing at Yay.
Oh, I made myself little notes in there. This piece is inspired by Hurricane Katrina. It's not one piece, several pieces. And the album itself are inspired by master and are influenced by music of the Deep South. Christopher Trapani is particularly the Delta Blues, which I love.
Okay, I was about to say it is actually Southern because it's not like St. Louis blues. Right?
No,
yeah, okay,
no, we're talking about like Southern Delta blues.
Well, cause you know what I mean, because a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, this is Louisiana blues," and it's just like St. Louis style, and it's like, nope.
And I've been able to listen to a little bit of this, and there definitely is a heavy blues influence that I love. If you're into that kind of thing, the mixture of popular and styles, I definitely recommend checking this out. I'm gonna listen to the whole album.
Blues are hard for me to listen to just because I don't find them interesting, but they're interesting for me to play.
You gotta make them interesting. I've done blues inspired music, and the thing about the blues is that the form and the ideas used in the blues are very simple ideas. But when you take that as your source material for a piece, it actually leaves you a lot of room to do. So yeah.
Go listen.
Listen, and finally, our last album that we wanted. It comes from our SI composer. Gillespie is a composer and saxophone, and he's solo. I'm not kidding. Solo with an.
See, I'm not the only person that does exclamations.
And it features the Barcata Saxophone Quartet, Gillespie's own group, the Gillespie Chamber Quartet, and the Kaya String Quartet. And the pitch behind this album is from his own website. I'm going to quote: "It is characterized by modern jazz inflection and a contemporary / classical. Still a little bit of third stream stuff going on there.
Third stream?
I don't know
no
that I don't think he
thing.
would really classify this as.
Ooh, Bernstein was wrong.
Jazz inflections.
Bernstein was wrong. There's no third stream.
Gunther Schuller would beg to differ with you.
No, I know he would. I'll fight him on it.
but anyway, this I haven't really had the chance to listen. I can't really recommend it, but it sounds interesting. Another one I will be checking out this.
So, there's one other news tidbit I forgot to put on here, but I was reminded just through the course of talking. This is pretty major. We announced several months ago that, hey, look, John Williams signed on for episode 9 of Star Wars.
Yeah.
him and JJ had their meeting, their
Oh,
pitch
okay.
meeting for
Mm-hmm.
you know, actual like melodic content and like just like themes and all that. They had that this past week.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
And it's actually funny. Do you know how John Williams does his meetings for that? Okay, so I did a bit of research because I remember hearing about this, but it's actually really cool. Keep in mind, John Williams he's got more money than God at this point. But the way he does it is you just walk into his house, and that's how you do his meetings with him. And and just on the piano, there's normally a stack of sheet music on the left that has all the things that he wants to pitch you. And then in the middle are kind of the slightly sketched out versions that you can kind of see things.
Uh-huh.
And then on the right is kind of his discard pile and or the inspiration points he's using. And then the coolest part, the absolute coolest part, and this part I actually picked up from Ryan Johnson's pre The Last Jedi interview whenever he was talking about working with John Williams. He talked about how it's actually really cool how you can walk into his home, and right around where his piano is and all that, and the seating and all that, there's all of the scores that John Williams has done. The original handwritten versions.
Oh, wow.
Like, and so Ryan Johnson talked about how he actually walked up and picked up E.T. and just like he's and Ryan
Which
Johnson's
score,
phrase was
yeah.
just like, it was like holding gold.
Oh, yeah.
And then JJ had a similar experience whenever he did Force Awakens, where it's just like, dude, like this is how you know you've arrived.
You've arrived because you're working.
You are working with John Williams.
And this is special because this is going to be, at least from what John Williams has said, this is going to be his last Star Wars movie. he says he's done.
He said he's done, and I like his quote about it.
Mm-hmm.
It started with me writing Luke's theme, and since we're closing out the Skywalker trilogy of trilogies, we will be ending with that. And I like that quote from John Williams, because that shows that not only does he care about you know, the music, but he cares about the characters, and that's what got him interested.
I think
he did not want to do any more Star Wars initially, but actually, you know what convinced him to do Episode 7? Rey. Yeah. Rey was a character that captivated him. Whenever they showed him the character just design for her and all that, he was captivated by her, especially when they described that she was a scavenger that doesn't know who she is and all that, and that was apparently enough for him to be like,
let's do this.
All right, let's do this.
I personally think they should just do the directing. He's a genius. So.
No, he's said that he never wants to do scripting. Like, he doesn't know how people do it. But no, honestly, people have their niches. Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, like, for instance, like you know, I moonlight as a YouTuber. Like, there's some of us that like can script night and day. I can't. I can only sit there and jabber on or improvise things like that. I can't sketch out. The most I can do is like have a loose list on my left of like, these are the points I want to hit in this video, just as like a mental checklist. That's the most I can do, and past that, I can't do any. So I'm with John on that. Like, I refuse. I'm not one of those people that can script.
Anyway, good. Yeah.
So yeah, that's good news.
We're both very excited for Star Wars 9.
I am
both the
so
story
excited.
And the score, because the score is fantastic.
Well, and actually, speaking of scores, another one coming out next year that's going to be great, Avengers 4.
Yes.
That is going to be great.
And is Alan Silvestri doing the music once again? Good.
He did the music. Apparently, about halfway back to back, he did some themes for Avengers 4 that aren't going to be in Avengers 3. But for the most part, it's going to be a lot of the same music. So it's going to be good.
Well, yeah.
Like, because Avengers...
you want to have...
Infinity War had great music. Because it's still weird, because like that whole movie is just like, it's a part 2, but it's not a part 2. It's like, what is it then? You pitched me Infinity War Part 2 4 years ago.
I think it's going to be hilarious. Anyway, so
I will cry.
That's about all our news for the week. So we did want to discuss something that I read this week that made me very angry. And I'll
just let you take this because I know that you're a fanboy.
Well, I'll talk about it, and then there's stuff to talk. Have you read the article?
No,
you
just
didn't
talk.
read the article. Oh God. Okay. So
well, this isn't the first time someone's shat on John, so I'm not. It's not really
there's a particular thing in the article I want to talk about, though. Yeah. Anyway,
start talking, and I'm a very fast reader.
Skip to the end. That's the important.
Well, actually, I want to hear the premise first.
Yeah,
Just start talking.
Van Magazine just George Krella just put out an article at Van Magazine, a kind of irreverent classical music magazine. So, basically, criticizing John Adams and relevant, particularly his like Sherazade point, Doctor Atomic, works that have been and the Gospel of Mary, all of which have tried to address social issues, social and historic, and the point that made, which is I think kind of the interesting thing to talk about in the art, is when he's talking about the difference between John Adams' later work. He said the other fundamental quality, Adams' best work, which represents.
You're talking about this. That has something.
He's said the quality of his best work is essential. Which I think is an interesting. He's essentially saying that Adams' new work are essentially trying too hard to make it. Is I think what make and he's praising Adams' early work for its out definite. So the question that kind of talk about, because yeah, it's not really news that somebody doesn't like John Adams. I disagree with you. I think John Adams, but is meaninglessness a quality of good music? Does it make music better when it doesn't try to say anything? Anything definite anyway.
I will. I haven't done the detail work on this article, but thank God for fast reading comprehension. Actually,
now we're gonna.
But hear me out. And part of it is this bit here. While Reich and Glass are finding more organic forms, respectively expanding harmonic palettes and adding ornamentation and chromaticism, Adams seems to have stopped and settled down. And then something that they have in parentheses here, which I feel shouldn't be, because I feel it's much more important. And I quote, "He's not as curious as his son," he told Van in 20. I think that is an interesting point, because
go ahead.
And keep in mind, this is also just my perspective. I'm a huge proponent of progress.
Yeah.
I think progress is good. We need to make progress as a society, as individuals. We need to advance our technology, advance our art, advance our culture. Whatever it is, we need to advance it. Our understanding of history even needs to all advance. And with that in mind, they do have a point that Adams has. I wouldn't say Adams has stagnated. He hasn't really stagnated. But he's stopped pushing his personal envelope. And I'm not saying that everyone has to be edgy and be pushing, quote, the envelope, unquote. But we should always be seeking to further our own art. And the more I think about it, I think they're right. In the past, I don't agree with their 15-year argument, but I think in the last 5 or 6 years, certainly, there is something to be said for, it seems that Adams is kind of planing on what he's currently doing. Now, that is something that's very common in elderly composers. A lot of elderly composers do reach that point where they're like, well, I've reached the height, and honestly, I'm not interested in furthering my art anymore. I'm just going to produce a few of the same pieces, and then I'm going to retire and die. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. Just me, as a very progressive person and someone that likes to push my own boundaries, I do have to agree with that. Because, I mean, Glass is old at this point, and each new one of his new pieces does something new and exciting. I mean, there's a reason why the Philip Glass Ensemble is still popular. I mean,
personal. I mean, with this paragraph, I see the point, but I think I honestly think they only have half the truth. I do agree that Adams in recent works has not they're not like boundary pushing work. They're not these are going to revolutionize anything.
Well, and not everything has to be.
But how I see Adams' more recent work, you know, particularly the Gospel According to the Other Mary, which I thought was a phenomenal piece, is that Adams, in his youth, he definitely was an innovator. You know, he I mean, sure, Glass and Reich and Riley were kind of ahead of him, but he took minimalism and took it to new areas. He did a lot of things, orchestration.
I think he more Americanized minimalism.
And Americanized it, yes, and integrated it with the Romantic tradition. And honestly, what I see in John Adams' music is further trying to engage with the classical tradition in the context of what he's musically. So yes, in a sense, it's looking back, but I don't see that as a bad thing. I think if you look at the arc of Adams' music from his early pieces now, it makes sense that he would start with very kind of straight minimalist stuff, advance that, and then take his brand of minimalism and try to integrate it into the larger class. That makes complete sense to me, and I don't think that's a criticism at all.
But here's why I think that's not necessarily as good as you think. Again, I'll opinionate it, but so the music of John Adams, it's very much built on the foundation. Glass, Reich, and others, all going back to Grandpa Minimalist Riley. Thank you, Terry Riley. I like calling him Grandpa Minimalist. I love him as that. I respect him. And it all goes back to that. And John Adams kind of has his own brand, as does Glass, as does Reich. But again, I mean, I guess from my perspective, it just seems awfully cocky of Adams to sit there and say, well, I've perfected my brand of music. Now I'm going to sit there and do something else with it. When really, I think he's really close, personally. Like, I feel like he's been knocking on that door. Like, this article actually even references that he is a worthy heir to Copeland. I would agree with that. I think he is a worthy heir to Copeland. But as the kind of American poster boy for music. But for me, it's just like, it's not quite there yet. Like, if he had written another one, maybe two pieces as a development of his own, I think he'd be there. Like, I think he's right there. Just and with his next piece, he could do it. With this next piece, he could satisfy me and finally fully integrate minimalism into the American classical tradition. At which point, I will hail him as king. But he hasn't quite done it yet. Not in the same way that, you know, Glass made modern minimalism possible, or that Riley made minimalist a thing at all, or Reich took minimalism and made it an integral part of the percussion work. I mean, all these people have that, and they have affirmed that, and other people have built on their work as part of it. And I think that John Adams is just kind of seeing that there's really no leading composers taking his art and pushing it, so he's wanting to do it for them. Where in reality, I feel that a lot of the artists, such as myself, were waiting for him to kind of finish the final form. Like, it's so close, just I'm not sold on it. That kind of makes sense?
Yeah, I don't really necessarily agree with it, and I don't think it's fair to say that he's being cocky. I think he's pursuing, the musical direction he wants to go. And I think that what's interesting him now is taking his musical language and engaging with the large classical tradition, which I see nothing wrong with that. And I don't think either of us have heard every John Adams piece.
Oh, no.
So we are going.
He's got at least 80 popular works.
He's written a lot of stuff. I personally don't see it as Adams failing to synthesis you're talking about. I think he's
nearly succeeded. He's almost there. Like, it's like if you walk 2 miles to get to my house and you just haven't quite made it in the door.
I guess I don't know what else you want him to do. I mean,
I want him to finish convincing me. Like, I'm nearly. It's kind of like if you were to, if Beethoven were to have stopped at Symphony 8.
I don't know.
We would view him differently, and I think that Adams still hasn't written his 9th symphony or Mozart's 40th.
I'm personally convinced if Adams were to drop dead today, I think his legacy would be quite substantial. Now, I guess I just don't want to. I don't want to come at it from an angle of where we look at Adams' career and try to look at it as if we're 100 years in.
Well, no, we're not.
And personally, I don't feel qualified to say that he hasn't gotten there yet. I think, but he also could write a piece like next year that totally blows all of his other stuff out of the water and changes.
Well, right, and that's why I'm not saying that Adams.
Yeah.
Like, that's one point I will say is because this author touches on a couple times how he's like, okay, Adams is done. I don't think Adams is done. Now, if Adams were rushed to the hospital right now, I'd say, shame he never quite achieved what he was going for.
I wouldn't.
But
I just.
Well, that's your opinion. I'm just saying because again, I'm trying to look at it as like, for instance, a lot of things I try to look at compositionally now from a pedagogical perspective, just because that's kind of where my life is, and I've always had a great deal of interest in pedagogy of, and for me, there isn't quite like if I were to introduce minimalism to someone as like a core concept, I don't quite have a reason to. Like, I think that Quick Ride in a Fast Machine, I think that's an excellent piece, and that is one that I would get to if they did minimalism and band, and I wanted to show them a good synthesis. But I would not show him immediately as, oh, this is the American minimalist. Well, and again, I think if he writes a piece that pushes even that extra 1% to 2% that I'm wanting, and I don't know what that extra 1% to 2% is. Because just like, I don't think anyone knew what Beethoven's 9th was going to be, but everyone kind of was like, oh yeah, Beethoven is good, but as soon as the 9th premiered, all of his colleagues were like, all hail. I mean...
But I mean, I think you also, I mean, with what you're talking about, you run into, is it fair to classify Adams as minimalist? I don't, right now, not really. I think his early music definitely falls into minimalist school, but
I think even that's actually the author's problem.
And I just don't agree with author. I don't think that Adams is compelled or to further pursue the more minimalist track in his composition, and I'm not disappointed that he went in another direction. Now, that's not to say that I don't think there isn't any more to do with it, but I mean I don't really see that as a criticism, because ultimately nobody leaves this earth doing everything they possibly could have done with their mind, or else it wouldn't be necessary for other people to continue the tradition.
But again, but can you at least see my argument of like, wow, he is this close to greatness? Like, if he were to just give the extra bit, it's kind of like that whole mentality of I mean, you never really did athletics at a highly competitive level.
Oh no, not even close.
Okay. Well, whenever I was a swimmer, there was something that my assistant coach Angie told me, and she was like, "Okay, well, every time, Zach, you think you're about to give out," and this is my freshman year when I was still really bad swimmer. He told me, push that extra half a lap. Push for that extra really long stroke. And then the next time, that limit has been pushed with each and every time. And I think that's the same way I treat my composition. Like, damn it, if I can give this extra 2%, it'll be nothing for next time. And again, I think that Adams has done that his whole life. And he's just at the point now where, he's in his final race, so to speak. And he has that one more, in my case, that one last stroke to hit, and he is so close, in my opinion. Like, and I don't know what that extra 1% to 2%. I'm not John Adams.
I understand the point you're trying to make. I just don't.
Oh, and that's fine. It's all opinion.
And
but
ultimately, it's a very subjective, so neither of us
though
are
I will
right or
say,
wrong. Yeah, it's different perspective.
Yeah, and I will say this: I don't agree with his reasoning, but he does have a couple fair points. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
For this, yeah, that's how I personally feel about this article. Arthur in the article. I'll give it a more thorough read, and honestly, if I change my mind, I'll let you know. But I've read about 50% of it, and I hit the highlights of the rest. I feel like my opinion will remain relatively unchanged. The only thing that I will say is I don't agree with the fact that they're like that's the part that's just like no.
See, that seems a little cocky.
No, okay, yeah, it does.
Like as a critic, he's irrelevant.
He's done. He's irrelevant now. Yeah.
Which Van magazine can come across.
No, but honestly, that's their job, though. It's their job to say, I personally feel like he's done.
Yeah. So that we can argue about it on the internet, and so that and we didn't get to meaninglessness, but, we talked about other interesting.
I think we talked about some more interesting points, actually.
Then
we'll get to that other thing next week. I didn't fully flesh that thing out.
But anyway, tell us what you think. If you disagree with us vehemently, we appreciate. And yeah, see you later. We'll see you next week. Woot woot. Yay. And
sorry, I was trying to load
are we
something
still
else.
live?
Yeah, I was trying to load up the sound set.
I'm gonna close us out. And
you have to
the
hit
first thing
post-show?
we do is post show. Bye guys. And then we're gonna bye now.